Welcome everybody to our meeting of the Committee on Environment, Local Government and Development Planning. I just confirm that I'm audible, Mr. Kutsia.
That's correct, Chair. I can hear you.
Thank you very much. All right, colleagues. Welcome to everybody. We have one item on the agenda today, which is a briefing from the Department of Cooperative Governance on our Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill, the Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill. And we will get to that in due course. But before we start, if I can just ask members to briefly introduce themselves. If possible, if you could pop your camera on when you introduce yourself. If not, if there's an issue with your camera, that's understandable. But if we can just do that, quickly introduce yourself. And then later on, if I can also just ask as President that when we do speak, that we put our cameras on just for ease of reference so we can all know when we're speaking to as well. It looks like Member Murray is already on the button, so he can start us off.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Grant Murray, a full member of this committee, and look forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members and officials. Peter Johnson, member of the committee.
Good morning, Chair, member of Principal and the member of this committee.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Tozama Tichakong, and I'm the alternate in this committee. Thank you very much.
Good day. Chair, you seem to be muted. It's Derek Wessels here. I'm trying to get my camera sorted. Thank you very much.
Yes, no problem. We've got you. Okay, so I think that's everybody. Is that correct? I think everyone on the meeting has introduced themselves, all the members. We also have a member of the NCOP, Ricketts Badenhorst, who's also joined us. Ricketts, if you can just introduce yourself, Member Badenhorst.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all. Ricketts Badenhorst, permanent delegate to the Western Cape to the National Council of Provinces, where I, amongst others, serve on the COCTA committee, which is dealing with this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Member Badenhorst. If we can just remind everybody present before the meeting begins, officially, that we only take points and speaking items from members and officials who have been invited to speak during the meeting. So nobody else is going to be participating via the microphones. Also, if we can just make sure that we keep our mics off when not speaking. We do have two apologies received. The first is from Minister Anton Goodell and also from Mr. Paulse the HOD. Are there any other apologies that have been received subsequent to that, Mr. Kutsia?
Nothing else, Chairperson.
All right, so the only apology that we have so far. If we can then move on to the Department of Cooperative Governance, we don't have a list of names of the members from that department who are joining us today. But if we can just ask that they please introduce themselves as well and pop their cameras on when doing so. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair. This is Nicole Williamson. I am from the Department of Local Government, Western Cape, and working in the Directorate of Municipal Governance.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williamson. Okay, so I see Mr. Orcas.
Good morning, Rudy Orcas, Department of Local Government. Thank you.
Sorry, your microphone is very, very soft. Can you try turn it up or maybe speak a bit louder?
Okay, it is all done. It's off now.
Will I try again, Mr. Orcas?
Good morning, Rudy Orcas, Department of Local Government. Thank you.
Okay, great. We can hear you, just still quite soft. All right. Representatives of the National Department of Cooperative Governance, can you please introduce yourselves?
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Lamulo Mate from COCTA, under the branch called Policy Governance and Administration, under the functional unit Municipal Governance in the department. I will allow the other two of my colleagues to also introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. So will you be leading the presentation? Is it your delegation, your team?
Thanks. Our chief director was supposed to also be part of this meeting, but I'll be the one that will lead the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll wait for your other colleagues to introduce themselves quickly.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. My name is Isaac Kambule from the National Department of COPTA under the Branch Policy Governance and Administration. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kambule. And who else?
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Tembedisha Nkosi from the National Department of Cooperative Governance and the Policy and Administration branch. Thank you.
Okay. Marvelous. All right. So the only other member of local government that we hadn't mentioned from our side was Mr. Young. Mr. Young, are you with us?
Good morning. Sorry, I was just looking for all the buttons.
No problem.
Good morning. Robert Young, Municipal Governments, Legislation Development.
Okay, wonderful. So we got a full house except for the director from COGTA, but everybody else is here. So that's great. All right, so we can then move on to the briefing. And I think it's worthwhile reading the note that has been provided, which states that the Standing Committee on Local Government considered the bill during the closing stages of, sorry, Mr. Kutsia, you put your hand up?
Apologies, Chair. We've got Mr. Carl Punt and Luiso Jamela from Salga. That's also on the platform. That's also joined the meeting.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome to both of you, Councillor Punt and the other gentleman. If you would like to just introduce yourselves, and pop your cameras on so we can see you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Carl Punt, representing Salga. Thank you, Chair.
Great.
Morning, Chairperson, and all protocol observed. I'm Loison Jameda, Salga, Western Cape, responsible for intergovernmental relations. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Great to have you present. All right, so getting back to the briefing note. The Standing Committee on Local Government considered this bill during the closing stages of the 6th Parliament. However, due to time constraints, the committee was unable to conduct public hearings. The matter was raised with the chairperson of the NCOP through the Office of the Speaker, and this was a letter that was sent, and I've seen that letter. Despite this, the committee did submit a negotiating mandate. The NCOP Select Committee did not conclude its deliberations on the bill, and it lapsed following the election. It seems that the bill was revived during the 7th Parliament and referred to provinces for briefings and public hearings. As of now, no referral documents have been received from the Speaker's office. According to Rule 2172 of the NCOP, when a bill is revived, proceedings on the bill resume from the stage at which it had lapsed. Mr. Rikus Badenhorst, our NCOP permanent delegate, may be able to provide further insights on the matter, and I will give him an opportunity to do so before we launch into the briefing. The reason we've organized the briefing is to familiarize our committee with the principles and the substance of the bill. The process is deemed to be sound. The committee then can proceed to facilitate public hearing. But we obviously want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly when it comes to procedure and in the best interest of the public who we serve. So I'm going to give Mr. Badenhorst, Member Badenhorst from the NCOP, an opportunity just to give us a bit of context from the side of the NCOP as to where this piece of legislation is currently sitting and what their plans are before we hand over to COGTA. Thank you. Mr. Badenhorst.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. So this bill was revived in the NCOP at the start of the 7th Parliament. One of the biggest issues that came up when this bill was revived was the limited time in the 6th Parliament to process this bill. Just to give the committee an example of this, the committee received the briefing on this bill on the 13th of February of 2024, and the negotiating mandates was scheduled to take place on the 8th of March, with the final mandate that had to be in by the 22nd of March. So this bill lapsed at the negotiating mandate stage against a very, very tight timeline. So when the bill got revived in the NCOP, the first thing we brought up was the fact that this bill was extremely tight in regards to timeline. So Rule 219 of the NCOP rules are very specific, and I'm going to read Rule 219, which deals with the legislative cycle. Specifically, Rule 219(2) says, depending on the substance of the bill, the period for consideration of the bill is at least 8 weeks. Now, this specific bill has a direct impact, as you'll see from the departmental briefing, has a direct impact on municipalities. And so it was felt that given the nature, the scope, and possible impact of this bill, that this bill needs to go through extensive, so extensive meaning more than usual, public participation processes. In fact, it was suggested in that letter that you referred to the previous chair of the National Council of Provinces, that at least each municipal district in the Western Cape have to do public participation on this bill. But I think it's of such importance that it would be imperative that every single municipality have a bite at the cherry when it comes to this bill, because it's going to influence every single municipality once the bill is passed. So just from that timeline, I think the committee needs to take note that and they need to find out from the National Council of Provinces what the new timeline is with regards to the process that's now unfolding in the provinces. I'm not 100% sure of that, but maybe you could find that out from the Secretary of Parliament. I'll also try and make inquiries. What is equally important is that rule, as you alluded to, the Rule 217 refers to the proceedings when a bill is resumed. Now, 212 says the proceedings on the bill shall resume at the stage at which the bill was when it lapsed. So if this bill is now being referred back to provinces and on with the request to redo the negotiating mandates, and I think we will all agree that there's a marked difference in some provinces between the 6th and the 7th Parliament from a political landscape. So that would mean that if you redo your negotiating mandate, go out in full public participation and change it, then this bill has gone back a step regressively. So I would suggest that legal opinion is sought on whether this is actually allowable in terms of Rule 2172. I've asked for the same question in the COCTA Select Committee in the NCOP at the last meeting we had. That legal opinion is sought on this, and they said they would look into it. So I will keep my eye on the ball on the NCOP side, but I would request the Western Cape Legislature to also look at the legality of what it means if the bill is now going back to provinces at a stage earlier than what it was when it lapsed. Thank you. That's my input. I'm happy to take questions if there's any. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honourable Badenhorst. I think the central question here really is regarding this public participation process and how that would coexist with a negotiating mandate that predates the public participation process. And I just think there's a lot of confusion here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mathieu and his team to give us the presentation. After that, we can then have a proper set of discussions and questions. And I will also, for yourself as well, Honourable Badenhorst, and I am also going to allow the representatives from SALGA to participate, as is under my prerogative, because I do think that it is important for them to be able to gain clarity as well. So firstly, let's hand over to Mr. Mathieu for that presentation, after which we will then have a proper and thorough discussion and deliberation. Mr. Mathieu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me quickly flight the presentation. I'm not sure if it's visible, Chair, on your side.
Yes, no, we can see it. If you could just make it full screen, that would be great.
Okay, I've just done that. It's on a presentation mode now on my side.
Okay, it hasn't come up like that on our side yet, but I think we should still be able to follow. So if you can maybe just start, and if the slides aren't moving, then we will stop you and try to see if we can fix it. All right, but we can see the slides. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the members of the Standing Committee on Local Government, Environment Affairs and Development Planning, and also to representatives from SALGA, as well as any other officials that are represented in this specific sitting. I'll be taking you through the presentation on the Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill. And the bill, the presentation is structured around, it provides for background, as well as the structure of the bill, how the bill is configured. And it also provides for various clauses that are contained in the bill. And also it provides for the summary of the processes that have been undertaken in relation to the processing of this specific bill. And it also deals with the amendments that were made by the COCTA Portfolio Committee in the 6th administration, and also provide for the recommendations. Chairperson, I would like to indicate that we did share the presentation prior to this specific meeting, and it also goes with the memorandum on the object of the bill. So in relation to the background in terms of the genesis, in terms of where we come from, in terms of processing this specific bill, this bill seeks to amend the principal legislation, which is the Local Government Municipal Demarcation Act.
Sorry, Mr. Machi, I don't want to interrupt you. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's only on my side, but I'm not seeing the slides moving. Is that the same for you, Mr. Kutsia?
Same on this side, Chair. I don't know if it will help if I maybe flight the oh, there
Yes.
it goes now. There it comes now. So,
Oh, there we go. It's on the first. Okay, great. All right, carry on.
Let me quickly see if I can put it on the slide mode quicker, because I seem to have lost the control on my side, but I can see the presentation on my side. Maybe if I can give him the right to control the slides.
Chair, yes, if he maybe just unshare his screen, then I'll share my screen and I'll bring up the presentation.
That's fantastic. Okay. And then just when you want to move to slide, you just say next slide, Mr. Kutsia.
Okay. No.
Okay. Thanks. So just give us a minute quickly. Okay, great. Carry on.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And yes, as I've indicated, this specific bill seeks to amend the Principal Act, which is the Local Government Municipal Demarcation Act. So this bill emerged out of the inputs that we have received from the present and previous boards, as well as the lessons that we've learned from the previous municipal boundary and ward delimitation processes, as well as other litigations that were associated with the processes that were undertaken by the board in terms of the Act, as well as other inputs that we've received from stakeholders. And previously, this specific bill was published for public comments during 2020 in June. And post that publication, we have met with stakeholders and we've had a workshop with the key stakeholders, the Demarcation Board and the IEC and SALGA and the various other national departments, as well as the provincial COCTAs and other related stakeholders in the sector. And after that, we did again have another workshop with the similar stakeholders to consider comments that were received through the public consultation processes. And I would like to indicate that due to the magnitude of the amendments or the proposals that were brought into this specific legislation, that has necessitated that we consider amending the entire Principal Act, which is the Demarcation Act, and replace it with these specific amendments. Next slide. This slide, Chairperson, just shows the roadmap in terms of where we come from in terms of processing this specific bill. This bill was approved by Cabinet in March 2022 for introduction into Parliament. And in order to comply with those parliamentary rules, this bill, the explanatory summary of the bill and the prior notice of introduction were submitted to the National Assembly in terms of the Rule 276 of the National Assembly. And the bill was tagged as a Section 76 of the Constitution Bill, which means hence it was now referred to all provincial legislatures as per the requirements in the Constitution. And it was later the committee itself, upon receipt of the bill, they had published the bill for public comment with the closing date of 15 June 2023. And then post that, the committee itself, the portfolio committee itself, conducted public hearings in different provinces between the period of July to September 2023. And during October and November, the bill, together with the report that was prepared by the portfolio committee based on those public participation and deliberations that ensued thereon, had considered this report and referred it to the National Council of Provinces for concurrence and as well as for consideration. Then the bill was referred, we've had a briefing prior to the referral of the bill before in the 6th administration to all provincial legislatures, and post that briefing, the bill was also referred to all provincial legislatures. And there were some consultation process that were taken in the prior administration. And the bill was deferred as the permanent delegate has indicated into this current term of Parliament. So this is how the bill is configured. Chapter 1 of the bill provides for definitions as well as the purpose of the Act. And then Chapter 2 deals with the operational, various operational issues relating to the establishment and the status and functions and powers of the authority, as well as its administration and finances. And Chapter 3 deals with the primary responsibilities of the board, which is include the determination of criteria for determination or redetermination of municipal boundaries. And it also provides for public participation within the process, and also deals with the delimitation of wards and the establishment and introduction of the Demarcations Appeals Authority, which I will deal with later in the ensuing slides. Chapter 4 deals with the municipal capacity assessment. It's a full chapter on municipal capacity assessment that the board is now required to undertake. Chapter 5 deals with miscellaneous issues, which deals with the issuing of regulations and guidelines, offenses and penalties, as well as the transitional arrangement measures that I will also deal with later in the presentation. Then the first, what we've done now was to try and align the renaming of the bill and the authority itself to the provisions, the founding provisions in the Constitution that provides for the establishment of the independent authority. So we've aligned, when we say independent municipal demarcation authority, was to align to the provisions of the Section 155 of the Constitution, which provide that a national legislation must establish criteria and procedures for the determination of municipal boundaries by an independent authority. Hence, it was renamed to align to that provision. So the first part, the long title, that is what is contained in the bill, which is the establishment, the criteria, and the delimitation of wards and capacity assessment, and the establishment of the appeals authority. Then one deals with the definitions that are assigned into the bill, which are listed there which include authority as well as appeals authority and the demarcation and other related terms. So 2 deals with the purpose of the board of the act, which provides for the establishment of the independent municipal demarcation authority, and it set out the criteria and the procedures for the determination or redetermination of municipal boundaries and delimitation of wards by the authority.
Hey, what?
I see this interjecting sound.
Sorry, I think I'm not sure whose mic that is. Sounded a bit like Member Stoffels. I'm not sure. Let's make sure those are off.
So 3 chairperson deals with the establishment of the authority, as I've indicated, because previously now they were in the present provision of the Act. There is no clear delineation between the Municipal Demarcation Board and its administration. So what we have done is that we insulated between the authority to mean now the board and the administration. So we were trying to draw a differentiation that the authority include the board and its own administration as provided for in the Constitution. 4 deals with the status of the authority, just clarifies the status of the authority, that this is a constitutional institution and is independent and must be impartial when performing its functions. So 5 deals with the functions of the authority. Here we just included that now the board must also conduct municipal capacity assessments for the reasons that I will advance later when I deal with the chapter dealing with the municipal capacity assessments. 6 deals with the powers of the authority, and then now it says the powers of the authority are conferred to the authority to perform its functions, and it also confirms that the authority is responsible to determine its own staff establishment, as well as including the filling of vacancies within that staff establishment to guarantee its independence. 7 deals with the composition of the board. What had happened here, there was some misconception as it stands in the current legislation, others misinterpreting regional diversity to mean that it will be different people coming from different provinces in the 9 provinces proportionally to form the board, and that was not the intention of the Act. So what the portfolio committee did when they were revising the bill, they had included to make it clear to say it must broadly reflect the composition of the South African society. So what other thing that was has been done was to also indicate that the board will consist for no less than 7 and not more than 10. So here we're trying to ensure that while it's 10 members, and then if ever there's a vacancy, the board can still operate with that number of 7 while the vacancy is being filled from the long list. So 8 deals with the responsibilities of the board. Here we're saying that the board is responsible for its business and affairs of the authority, and is responsible for corporate governance of the authority, and may exercise its powers and functions as authorized to do so in terms of this specific legislation. 9 deals with the qualification of the board members. What we have included here is that given the nature of the work that the board undertakes, it mostly involves intensively the use of ICT. So it also included the information technology as part of the additional qualification that a member can possess. And what has also been included is that it must also include the full-time we also clarify that the full-time employees of an organ of the state cannot be part of the members of the board. Just always as to draw the clear lines between those 2. 10 deals with the appointment of the board members. We have included in terms of the composition of the selection panel. the portfolio committee chairperson in the National Assembly to also be party to the selection panel, as well as because the demarcations happens through the geographical lines of the traditional authority. So we thought that the National House of Traditional and Coastal will also be party to of the selection. And then 11, due to the term of office and the termination and resignation of a board member, was saying that just as to try and align the term of the demarcation board with that of the municipal council, was saying that term of office is 5 years and it will end within 6 months after the commencement of the term of the local government. That was to try and ensure that a single board is responsible for the entire cycle of redetermination for that particular term, for accountability as well as
Sorry, Mr. Matia, I'm losing you. I'm not sure if it's just me.
Yeah, it's disappeared from my side as well, Dave.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Sorry, because I was sorry, Chair. I'm using the cell phone to connect into the gadget. Hence, I got that interjection when the call came in. Apologies. So, as I've indicated, we wanted
continue.
Yes, we needed to ensure that the board is responsible for that entire cycle of its redetermination within that term that the board has been appointed for. So the other aspect that has been included was that a member of the board may not hold an office for more than 2 consecutive terms. You would have seen also it applies to premiers and in the municipal councils to mayors as well. So we applied that similar principle to this composition of the board. And that you would have seen at point to deal with also to maintain a discipline and to ensure that there's operational efficiency and continuity within the board. Was saying that if a member of the board is absent for more than 3 or more board meetings, such a member will be deemed to have ceased to hold office. But that's only when that has been done without a person being granted a leave of absence by the chairperson. And 12 deals with the conditions of appointment of board members. Here we're just saying that the conditions of appointments are finalized by the minister with the concurrence of the Minister of Finance. And then 13 deals with the appointment of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson. Yet just provide that the president can appoint one member as the chairperson and the other as the deputy chairperson. So the deputy chairperson will be able to undertake the work if the chairperson is absent or unable to perform the functions of office, or if that position is vacant for that time, to ensure that there's operational efficiency and continuity within the administration of the board. 14 deals with the meeting. Here, what we have indicated is that if so required by the majority of members, the chairperson must convene the meeting. And when in that majority, if they constitute a quorum and you find that perhaps, let's take it's 10 members and the votes are equal, and then we have granted the casting vote to the speaker or the chairperson to be able to have that casting vote where the votes are equal. And then 15, so that we don't reach the deadlock. 15 deals with the rules of procedure, and we're saying that the board must determine its own rules of procedure for conducting meetings, including keeping minutes for proceedings and decisions, and dealing with other procedural matters relating to their performance of their functions. So 16 deals with the committees, here just empowering the board to establish more than one, more than one committees, but such committees must also include audit and risk governance committees, because we have felt that those are critical to ensure that it deals with the virus related audit and governance related matters. So what had happened here also in terms of those committees that may be established, we have also indicated that those criteria that are set out in clause 9.2, those are the disqualification of a member from becoming a member of the board. So also applies in the appointment of the committees. Those are those that are unrehabilitated or have been found insolvent, or a person who has been placed under curatorship or of mental unsound and other related matters that are provided for in 9.2 of the bill. So what has been included here is that from what we have received, there was a feeling that perhaps the names of the members of the committees must be published on the website of the authority to ensure that there's greater transparency in that process. 17 deals with the delegations and instruction to exercise or perform the functions by the board. Here we're saying the board may delegate any of its powers to a member or an employee or a committee of the board, but they may not delegate a power to make a final decision on the determination of a municipal boundary. So 18 deals with the requirement for board members to perform their functions in good faith and without fear, favor, or prejudice, and must disclose all personal and private business interest. That was to try and ensure that there's no possible conflict of interest. And then if any member contravenes or fails to comply with acting in that good faith, such a member will be found guilty of misconduct. 19 deals with the provision to align, as the Act is then now provide for a managing director. You'll recall that when we promulgated this legislation before, around 1998, we haven't dealt much with dealing with those, and now it's an opportune moment to try and align with the provisions of the PFMA as well, to say that there is no longer a manager. It's now the chief electoral officer, chief executive officer, and that is to align with the other constitutional institutions and to ensure that there's also greater accountability and alignment with the provisions of the constitutional institutions as prescribed in the Public Finance Management Act. And we also clarify that CEO is the accounting officer and must perform all functions as may be assigned to her or him by the board. 20 deals with the conditions of employment of employees. Here we're just trying to align to that the board can determine its conditions of employment of employees. However, that must also comply with the principles of PAMA, and that also in dealing with those officials that may be seconded from other organs of the state. 21 deals with the contracting for services. We're saying here a person that is contracted by the board to perform certain services must be remunerated and reimbursed from the expenditure incurred by the board. 22 is funding, deals with the funding. We're saying that the authority must continue to receive the funding from Parliament and from any other source, but subject to the conditions of the National Revenue Fund, just as to try to ensure that there is no possible interest that may not be necessary, or board receiving some donations that might impede on its objectivity and the work assigned for the board. 23 deals with the determination of municipal boundaries. Here was just saying that while the board determines municipal boundaries, must also ensure that it does so and align to the objects of local government as set out in Section 152 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, and to ensure that the principles of SPLUMA are also taken into consideration. Next slide. 24 deals with factors that need to be taken into consideration. Here we just added that because this bill as well is also driven by the desire to also ensure that we maximize public participation. So we're saying that while the board redetermine municipal boundaries or ward boundaries, must also take into account the views of people and communities living in the area. Then 25 deals with the determination of the category of the municipality. What we have done here, because now is an opportunity to now also try to align some of the provisions that the board administer, because some of those are in the Structures Act, whereas the board also performs the functions in terms of the Demarcations Act. So we have thought that because those are falling within the broader scheme or the work of the board, and now it's an opportunity to migrate those specific provisions, which include the determination of the type and the category of municipality, to now fall within a single piece of legislation. So we're just migrating those into this specific piece of legislation. 26, what in 26 we're saying that when a board determines more than one ward or boundary that affects more than one ward, that is a major boundary determination. So that can only be done within the 10-year cycle, because what we have seen is that sometimes demarcations are interruption, causes disruption in terms of the municipal planning. So what we are indicating here is that at least that if it's a major redetermination, let it be done after 10 years, a period of 10 years, to ensure that communities as well remains intact, and the municipal planning as well, they are able to plan over the short-term and long-term period. And also what we are saying is that the board will not determine or redetermine municipal boundaries after the minister published the formula determining the number of councillors. Maybe let me put it clear here. What here we're trying to say is that during the election process, when the minister would have published the formula determining the number of councillors in terms of the Structures Act, so here at this period, we're saying the board cannot be interjected by late submissions of requests to redetermine certain wards, while the board now must undertake the ward delimitation process during that period. So we're saying during that period, not to hamper into the preparations for elections, the board may not entertain those, may deal with those post the elections. 27 deals with the notification of intention to consider municipal boundary or ward boundary. Here we're saying that while the board does so, must also publish the notice in that area concerned, stating its intention to consider a request for the redetermination of municipal boundary, so that communities are aware, or people living in that specific locality or area of jurisdiction are able to also clued up of the process that the board, or the intention of the board. And they should also invite views for written representations, as well as for public consultation for a period of at least 30 days before it considers any determination of a municipal boundary. However, but also while doing that, also ensure that the notice or a request for comment is made also to this targeted audience, which is the minister and as well as the MECs, SALGA, as well as the affected municipalities that are affected by the municipal boundary change or ward boundary change, as well as the magistrate, because these geographical lines also are within the magisterial boundaries, and also must consult the traditional and Khoisan leaders within that affected areas. So 28 deals with investigations on determination, or saying that a board is required to conduct or institute a formal investigation, unless if the geographical line or the redetermination is just minor or technical in nature, and it must also consider the views and representations from the stakeholders. Then 29 deals with the authority to publish a notice also in a local requirements for the board to publish a notice in a local newspaper informing stakeholders of public meetings, so that they can be able to partake in the process, and may also use any other or the same message, communicate the same message through other means that may be ideal for that specific community. Next slide. Then 30 deals with the mechanism, process, and procedure for public participation. The Systems Act, the Local Government Municipal Systems Act provide for a lengthy process for that requires the council, the municipality, to establish appropriate mechanisms, processes, and procedures in terms of Section 17 of the Systems Act. So what we have done here, we have followed through the similar type of process that need to apply as well to maximize public participation in the municipal demarcation processes. So this just requires the authority as well to develop those appropriate means and mechanisms and procedures as set out in the Systems Act to maximize public participation in the municipal demarcation process. So what we are also indicating here is that participation may also take place via government, political, civil, community-based organization that represents communities, and the authority may also use visual platforms to enable communities and stakeholders to participate in the process. 31 deals with the publication of and the objection on the determination of saying the authority must publish its final determinations in the provincial gazettes for comment. And after considering any objections, must also confirm, vary, or withdraw its determination by publishing a final notice in the provincial gazette. So, however, we've set out the new responsibility here to say that if the board chooses to redetermine a municipal boundary, must also provide reasons for its decision in terms of why it has to delimit these certain ways, or so that for greater transparency and for the community to understand why this word had to be redetermined. So that was to try and provide for transparent process. And then 33 deals with the delimitation of wards. 32 deals with the, after the board having finalized the municipal boundary changes, it must also send the particulars of that redeterminations to the IEC and the MEC's concerns for that was to be done for planning purpose in relation to the preparations of the other ensuing processes that must be undertaken by the IEC in preparations for the local government elections, as well as the MECs as well for their views in relation to the those redeterminations. 33 deals with the delimitation of wards. Here was saying that the authority must publish the timetable when it redetermines the wards. Immediately after the minister has published the formula determining the number of councillors, then now the board as well must publish a timetable in terms of how it's going to undertake its ward delimitation process leading towards the preparations for elections. And that may be amended through a good cause shown. Then 34 deals with the number of wards. Here was saying that the number of wards in a metropolitan or local municipality must be equal to the number of ward councillors determined for the municipality in terms of the Section 22 of the Structures Act, those that the minister would have determined. 35 is the criteria for the determination of wards. Here was saying that the number of registered voters in each ward may not be varied by more than 15% of the norm. And as it stands now, the norm stands at the 15%. So what we're saying in those exceptional cases, to avoid the splitting of farms and where you find that a house is falling between one municipality and the other, or the one ward to the other. And then we're saying that in those extenuating situations, the board may also may deviate by not more than 30% of the norm in those exceptional cases. 36 deals with the public participation in delimitation of wards. This is just the similar process that I've dealt with in the ensuing slide, dealing with the various processes and procedures that the board must undertake, also applies in the ward delimitation processes. That include also the board having to provide the reasons for decisions of those that objected, and also to provide the reasons for such request, And 38 to 46 deals with what we call now the Demarcations Appeals Authority. As it stands now, we don't have this Demarcations Appeals Authority, and communities, when they are dissatisfied about the determination of municipal boundaries, tend to resort into the court process, which sometimes lengthy or also have an impact within the MDB timelines to determine municipal boundaries, as well as costly litigations. So what we're trying to deal with here is to try and come up with an appeals mechanism wherein the community can deposit their inquiry into this Demarcation Appeals Authority for this Demarcation Authority to consider. And after considered that, would have make specific recommendations to the board, and the board can reconsider the request, whether it continue or discontinue with such a determination. So that is just an appeals authority to settle disputes, or it's a dispute resolution process that may be undertaken prior to those costly court litigations. So this slide just shows the summary in terms of the municipal boundary demarcations, what I've dealt with in the preceding slides in terms of the criteria and all other processes that need to be undertaken, which I may not waste time on. Then this slide deals with those issues that have been, I can't see the title at the top. I can't see the title of this specific slide. If I can be assisted.
It says amendment details at the top.
Yeah, Chair, this is how I got the presentation. So
Yeah.
If it's clause 47, I'm not sure what happened to the previous clauses then.
Okay.
And then the
okay,
next,
yeah. Okay. This is a summary of the key features in the bill in this one. This slide just summarizes in greater detail what the bill entails, which I've indicated it was to align this specific bill in terms of renaming to align to the provisions of Section 155 of the Constitution, and the bill having to be renamed into Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill, and also to deal with the differentiation to indicate that the authority include the board and its administration, and the alignment of the term, as I dealt with earlier on, that it must be aligned to the term of local government, and the factors to be taken into consideration, which must also include the views of people or communities living in the area concerned, and also Section 26 dealing with the cycle of major determinations, which must be done after every 10 years. And after the minister would have published the formula, and then that is when the board may also undertake there will be no determinations that may be considered during that period, since it running towards the preparations for elections and the public consultation process that might be undertaken, and the delimitation of wards, as I've indicated, may not deviate by more than 30%, but that may deviate by more than 30%. But only under those exceptional cases. And what other intervention, as I've indicated, was to introduce the Demarcations Appeals Authority, and as well as ensuring that the board must conduct municipal capacity assessment, which I think the previous slide that I could not see very well I would like to believe it was dealing with the municipal capacity assessment. But what I can indicate that we've introduced the chapter, there is a capacity assessment that the board must undertake in the Structures Act now. But now it's not compulsory for the board to conduct capacity assessment. So what we have done here was to try, as part of intervention, to ensure that at least the board must at least conduct one capacity assessment within the cycle or the term of local government, so that that information is critical for service delivery functional responsibilities of the municipality to ensure that we are able to understand that where is the municipality lacking, so that we do not necessarily always have to resort to redetermination, but we can support a municipality in terms of the water provision where it lacks, based on the capacity assessment report. That can also assist the minister or the sectorial departments that are providing services within a municipality to be able to support or to know where to support that municipality in terms of how it lacks based on that capacity assessment. So what we have said there as well is that the capacity assessment can inform a lot to change the type of the municipality from a local into a metro municipality. Based on that capacity assessment, we can be able to see that this municipality is able to perform its functions and to what extent the capacity of that municipality to deliver services becomes critical based on that municipal capacity assessment report. So we're saying that these 4 issues must also be considered: the provisions of water and the bulk supply of electricity, and the capacity of the municipality to provide domestic water and sewage disposal system and municipal health services. These are not limited to those. The board may determine other indicators, as well as the minister may also, through the regulations or guidelines, provide some of the other indicators that may be taken into consideration in terms of those that the board can consider when conducting municipal capacity assessment. So this slide just provides part of the amendments that were proposed by the portfolio committee in the 6th administration. As I've indicated, when the bill went served before the committee, it was saying broadly reflect broadly, and the committee changed it to say broadly reflect the composition of the South African society. And 9 was also the committee has also inserted in terms of those qualifications that the board member must possess, to say relevant qualifications. And also they inserted the provisions for disqualification in terms of the committee to say, as set out in 9.2, may also equally apply to the appointment of members of a committee. And that the names of the members of the committee that the board may establish must also be published on the website to ensure that there's a greater transparency. And also the issue around they remove the independent development from the objectives of the determination or redetermination of municipal boundary. And in 30, they also became specific that the appropriate mechanism and procedures must be as stipulated in Section 17 of the Municipal Systems Act to enable members of the public to participate in the demarcation processes of the authority. And also in 32, where the authority must inform the minister and the Minister of Finance of the determinations. When the bill went there, it was saying at least 9 months and at least 6 months. Then the committee proposed that it should be 9 months instead of 6 months prior to the commencement of the municipal financial year. And 48, the committee felt that while the minister is empowered to make regulations that are incidental to this specific act, such may also be subjected to the parliamentary scrutiny prior to the promulgation of those regulations, meaning that when the minister wants to promulgate the regulations, will not just go out and publish the regulations, must at least within 30 days consult with the parliament, and after that, so that the parliament as well must have an oversight in terms of those regulations before they are promulgated. So as part of the recommendations, just to indicate that the committee to note the content of the presentation. Thank you, Chairperson. That marks the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mate. I think there was a substantial amount of information presented in a relatively short space of time, and I just want to thank you for doing such a great job of getting all of that information across. Colleagues and other members and officials present, I think our discussion today is not necessarily to deliberate on the bill and the legislation itself, but rather for us to look at the context of the enormous amount of information that has just been presented and make a determination as to the way forward in terms of what our position will be when it comes to the public participation process, the negotiating mandate, and the legality of those. And Mr. Mate, I think before we open up for questions, would you be able to give us an update in terms of what Mr. Badenhorst mentioned earlier on, which is the efficacy and the legality of using the previous negotiating mandate from the previous parliament, and the impact that that has on future public participation processes, and whether a legal opinion has been obtained in terms of that. Are you able to just give us a little bit of feedback there?
No, thanks, Chairperson. Yes, I've noted that, but I think that should be left to parliamentary advisors in terms of how that can be dealt with. I might be found wanting if from the department side having to advise on that matter. Thank you.
All right, noted. Okay, colleagues. So I'm going to open up then for questions, as mentioned, questions of clarity on the legislation and on the procedure and the process going forward for either Honourable Badenhorst or Mr. Mate. We also have, as mentioned, representatives from the Provincial Department of Local Government who may also be able to give inputs. And perhaps I could ask either, I don't know if Ms. Williamson, Mr. Young, or Mr. Orcase, if you would like to then share any comments before we begin with the questions.
Hi, Chair. At this stage, I don't have any questions.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so the first question is from Honourable Masipa, who has joined us. I know he had a bit of an issue connecting earlier, but he is joined and duly part of the meeting, as is Member Beauty Stoffel, who also joined a little bit later. Member Masipa for the first question.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I think my question really pertains to the mandate, as obviously Honourable Badenhorst did highlight at the opening. I think the question really is, do we have parliamentary legal advisor really to maybe provide an input in terms of going forward? Or if we don't have, can we maybe source in writing as to what his advice is around, going forward regarding this bill? Thanks, Chair. Do you hear me, Chair?
Yes, I heard you.
Was I audible? Because sometimes my...
Yes, you were audible. You were great. I can hear you. Perfect. Thank you so much. We had, I think, Member Marais put his hand up and then put it down again. Member Marais, do you want to ask a question? Okay. Just before we get into other members, I saw Mr. Kutse, you raised your hand.
Chairperson, yes, we have got Mpo Kueli, our legal advisor from WCPP. She's on the platform as well. Maybe she can provide some background but then maybe we could ask her to get us further detail at a later stage.
Great. Ms. Kuele, we'll come back to you after this round of questions as well in terms of those procedural issues that have been raised. Member Constable and then Member Murray.
Chair, thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Chair, my question is just with regards to the public participation. It is when it goes to public participation, is this only a provincial parliament process, or will it be a dual process with the board or with COCTA in the same room, or is it two different public participation processes that will be run? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Member Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I was covered by Member Masipa and the previous member on the issue of the public participation process going forward. And also in terms of just clarity, I perhaps have a question or two, but that is I think the legal department must give us direction in terms of the way forward, and also making it an inclusive process in terms of the public participation process. There is cultural communities that needs to be accommodated. The particular act that gives recognition to the Khoisan has been declared unconstitutional, yet within this piece of legislation, reference is made to that particular house. So, we need to make sure of the way forward and who will be part of this process. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honourable Murray. I mean, I think the message that I'm getting so far from three members from three different political parties is that there's a lot of information contained in this bill, and that there certainly is a necessity for some form of public participation to be taking place. The question is, however, whether or not that public participation is going to be fruitless and wasteful expenditure if the negotiating mandate from the previous term of Parliament is used without taking into consideration the inputs made during that public participation process. And I think that really is the central question. It's a process one. So maybe, Ms. Kuele, if you could just give us a little bit of clarity from your side in terms of the legal specifics here.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, members. Advocate Queenie here. Chair, the first issue that I'm going to address is the issue of legality. Now, this negotiating mandate, as it stands, due to the fact that the public participation aspect, was not conducted, it's a constitutional obligation. So if we continue on this trajectory, that will mean that this bill, if it were signed into law, there will most probably be a constitutional attack. So that means that as it stands, due to the public participation not being conducted, it is defective fundamentally. So we cannot continue on this trajectory. So now the next question arises, what is the alternative? Chair, it is my opinion that we need to find a reasonable way to amend the negotiating mandate in terms of Rule 240. Meaning that if we were to amend this negotiating mandate, we can go through the public participation process and then produce an amended a negotiating mandate that will be in line with what the rules provide. And then my third point, Chair, is that I'm of the view that since it has not been officially referred to the Speaker, and there's an issue of timelines, a lot of our discussions here in terms of timeframes, we need to capture it in a letter and also state our intention to amend. And I think that would be the most reasonable way to cure this defect, which ultimately is a fatal defect. So those are my suggestions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kule, and very good to get clarity from somebody who understands these instances very, very well. So, I mean, I think, you know, from my perspective as the chairperson, and I'm sure the committee members share this, I don't think we would be comfortable embarking on any public participation process until we have that clarity, until that letter has been sent and responded to, in terms of whether or not we would be able to amend that negotiating mandate, as you mentioned, in line with Rule 214. So I think that is probably the best way forward in terms of your suggestion. We have Member Badenhorst has raised his hand. Member Badenhorst.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to refer to the letter that was sent by the Speaker of the Parliament in the Sixth Parliament to Honourable Masondo, the Chair of the NCOP. In that letter, there's sorry, no, not that letter. The actual negotiating mandate. In the negotiating mandate that was submitted to the National Council of Provinces, it says that the committee, in their effort to do proper public participation, with the lack of time that they were given, wrote to stakeholders and made use of social media to solicit public comments on the bill. But they felt that to ensure public participation, the bill should have been advertised for at least 2 to 3 weeks before proceeding with public hearings. So, alluding to what the legal advisor just said, the negotiating mandate that was submitted by the Western Province Provincial Legislature to the NCOP would have then been flawed in itself, because there wasn't enough time to advertise for public participation, and there wasn't proper public participation done. So that would mean that the province, if they are now going to go out and do proper public participation, and like I alluded to before, this is quite an important bill. It affects every single municipality in our province. So and our rules in the NCOP says you have to have at least 8 weeks for public participation. So, assuming that then proper public participation is going to be done, that would mean that the negotiating mandate would change, because now you have proper input, and that would set. So the question I think that needs to be asked of the legal team, and that needs to be asked of the National Council of Provinces legal team, is that then not taking this the process back one step? And in that case, if the process is going back one step, so we're asking all the provinces then, because this is being done by all the provinces for new negotiating mandates, does that not then contravene Rule 2172 of the National Council of Provinces, which states that the proceedings of the bill shall resume at the stage at which the bill was then lapsed? I think that's the key question here. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thanks, and I think that really is a very important question to ask. Ms. Kule, would you like to venture any thoughts on that?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Badenhorst. So from what I can glean from what you're saying is that when we make provision for public participation, this negotiating mandate that we produce will essentially be a new negotiating mandate and not an amended one, because there will be substantial changes to the negotiating mandate, rendering it to be a new negotiating mandate. But here it lies the problem, right? Because now this negotiating mandate has been submitted, in effect, it completes that process until we can still, before it's taken to the council and voted, we can still amend, but we cannot actually issue a new negotiating mandate. It does not seem like the rules allow it. And then another option is that we can withdraw, but this is a highly risky move because if we withdraw, then in essence we are abstaining. So I will venture to say that even though substantially there will be differences, I would still say the best way to go is an amendment because that is the only cure that the rules allow, unless the people at the NCOP view it differently, Chair.
Member Constable.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I don't want us to to put ourselves in a place where we lose out being part of this process. I think it's better for us to first, from a legal perspective, seek clarity on this process before doing anything with regards to public participation and withdrawing of the negotiating mandate. Otherwise, the Western Cape province will be in a loss. So yeah, if we can really get clarity on this before we doing anything and maybe come back to this committee and finalize the process. Thank you, Chair.
Ms. Kule, you have mentioned that we should write. Just in terms of your advice, are you suggesting that a letter should go again from the Speaker's office or from myself as chairperson of this committee, or should it go from our legal department? What do you suggest is the best way forward so that we can adopt that later at our resolution?
I can I suggest as a chair that you write, Chair, and the objective of the letter is to ascertain where the NCOP, where they want to take this, because it's very difficult for us now to decide on the best way forward if we don't have an understanding of where they want to take this. Do you know what I mean? So it would be much better. And also within that letter, you can emphasize the timeframes. They are very important. So yeah, it's just to ascertain where their mind is at regarding this, because that will inform a lot of the actions that we take afterwards, Chair. Thank you.
Mr. Mathieu, I know you have said that you don't want to venture an opinion because it's a matter for procedural officers and legal advisors. But I mean, has this issue been raised with you previously, and what has the response been? I'll take Mr. Vermeulen and Mr. Kutsia after that. Mr. Mathieu?
No, thank you, Chairperson. From those provinces that were conducted the briefing, I see they're continuing to undertake the public consultation process. We are also supporting now, as I say, KZN on those public hearings, and we'll also be supporting Eastern Cape next week on the public hearings on this second round of consultation. So it hasn't been much of an issue with the other provinces. Thank you.
Okay, but I suppose the question is what is going to happen to the public participation, the outcomes of that public participation? What does that inform? What is that public participation for? Is there an intention to amend the negotiating mandate?
I think to me, Chairperson, this cycle of another public consultation was to try and provide adequate period, since there were some outcry by other provinces that they did not really undertake the thorough public consultation in the 6th administration. Hence, they requested that they can have another round to conduct a thorough public consultation. Hence, the committee, to my understanding, had to refer this bill again to all provincial legislatures to undertake that thorough public consultation process, and to also refer or confer the negotiating mandates back to the NCOP. Last time I checked, the NCOP was finalizing its program in terms of when that can be resubmitted to the NCOP for further deliberations and considerations. Thanks.
Yes, I fully appreciate that, but I think my question was, the outcomes of the public participation, the information that is received from that, because it's, you know, it's an information gathering exercise as well, and inputs are then received. What is it envisaged that that information is going to be used for? Is it intended to amend negotiating mandates going forward? Because I mean, or was it just sort of supposed to be in the view of COGTA, a sort of public information session?
Thanks, Chair. I think this process is to try and gather the negotiating mandate. Of course, I'd like to believe that if we go through another process of consultation, that will also trigger the change on the current negotiating mandate that you may have before you.
Okay,
So,
all right. So we're getting somewhere. Okay, okay. It's making a bit more sense. Mr. Famila?
Chairperson, sorry, just struggled there with my mic. Chairperson, thank you very much. I'll try to be brief, Chair. I'm speaking from a procedural perspective now. Johan Coetzee and I have, over the last few weeks, obviously discussed this and been very concerned, Chairperson, because we know that a lot of things have happened, even at the NCOP, for example. I think they got in a legal opinion. I'm not sure exactly how it was framed. They were concerned about the process. There was no formal communication that I'm aware of the outcome of that. And the other concern is, Chairperson, then on the NCOP documents, we started seeing that they're going to have public hearings again. So, but the bottom line is, and I don't think, Chair, that I'm saying anything new, but the bottom line is we have not received formal communication to tell us, okay, this is how we envisage as the NCOP that we are now going to go forward. You have in the 6th Parliament provided us with negotiating mandates, but after your public hearings, you will now be able to amend those negotiating mandates. We don't know that, Chairperson, because, and I'm just speaking some of the rumors that we heard a few weeks ago, and it wasn't on paper. That's the concern, is that they're going to use the old negotiating mandates, but there must be public hearings again, which to me sounds like window dressing. And I'm not saying that it is true, because once again, we did not receive anything in writing. So, Chairperson, just to come back, procedurally, I also would say that I think also that, Chairperson, it's important to write that a letter be sent to the NCOP and the committee asks the questions that it wants to have answered. Just in terms of our process at WCPP, and maybe one can assist there, he may remember better. I think there's a process where the Speaker's office have previously told us, listen, when you write, that the US Chairperson of the committee write the letter on behalf of the Speaker and then send it to the Speaker, so that they don't have to do the actual work. But it's important, Chairperson, that our Speaker sees that and that he communicates with whoever's head of the NCOP on the other side. But Johan will be able to advise on that. But I think the questions that was raised in this meeting must be mentioned and pertinently asked in that letter, so that we can have clarity on the process, Chairperson. Because I think you've said it, and Johan has informed you or discussed with you before the meeting. You know where the process pitfalls are, and even the legal questions that we have and that have been answered might change once we get that formal view from the NCOP, because we might find on our side that our legal people might say, no, but this is not entirely correct, or we may be happy with it. But that's just the bottom line of the next step, Chairperson. We need formal communication to go out and to come back to us so that we know exactly what's happening. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. It's very helpful. Mr. Coetzee?
Chairperson, yeah, no, I think Vermeulen has sort of covered me. I just wanted to raise the point of we would compile the letter, draft it. I will speak to Ms. Kule. She can help me with some of the wording, but we then submit it to the Speaker, and it goes out under the letterhead on the signature of the Speaker to the Chairperson at the NCOP. That's the one part, and we will ask those questions in that letter. But I think Member Badenhorst needs to then just also follow up what is the process on the NCOP side. And I don't know whether we've got sort of jurisdiction there, but the NCOP side is what happens then if you say that the bill is revived? And that everything we do now is sort of fruitless then or wasteful in. But yeah, that's my comment. Thank you.
100%. And I'm going to give to Member Badenhorst after I've taken Honourable Masipa. We also have to be cognizant of time. I know this meeting was scheduled until 12 o'clock, and some members do have to move along. So Honourable Masipa, then I'm going to take Honourable Badenhorst, and then we'll see if there's any other questions, and then we can put together our resolution, which I think is quite clear at the moment. Member Masipa?
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, mine is not really a question, but it's maybe a request to the legal advisor to really consider reducing her advice in writing to us, because I have got a memorandum that was produced by the Secretary of the National Assembly, where it detailed this issue of the one that we are dealing with. But the last part, in terms of the conclusion, it does indicate that the standing rules of National Council of Province do not make provision for the lapsing of bills linked to duration of the National Council of Provinces. But then it further says, again, regard must then be had to the practice to date, which indicates that bills before National Council of Provinces lapse either on the last day of the National Council of Province or on the day before the first day of polling for the next National Council of Province or Provincial. These bills were then revived in the next Council of Provinces. So it seems this is probably, what is the principle that might be followed in this regard. But I think really not a question to maybe request the legal advisor to reduce her advice to this committee in writing, and maybe, that will assist.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
I will share this copy with you.
We'll add that to the list. Thank you, Honourable Masipa. The two members of SALGA who are present, I just want to give you an opportunity if either of you want to ask a quick question of clarity regarding anything, or if not, I'll take silence as consent.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think the recommendation of legal opinion and clarity need to be given, and we will stand with that. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, I mean, I think looking at that presentation and the subsequent discussions, this is certainly not something that can be rushed. And I think if it means having to delay that process for the NCOP and COGTA to have to delay that process in the best interest of the public at large, I think that is probably preferential to a rushed process that is then open up to constitutional challenge at a later stage. Member Badenhorst, before we close, is there anything that you would like to respond to, and maybe if there's anything from your committee side, the NCOP side, that you want to expand on in terms of the points that have been made?
No, thank you very much. I think it's crucial that we find out what the intention is of the reason why the bill was referred back for negotiating mandates to the provinces. What are you going to do with the information if you do further public participation? That's essential. And then it's essential also maybe to ask in that letter what the timelines are. So, by when does the final mandates have to be in, so that we could see if there's going to be enough time for proper public participation this time around as well. I have sent a request to the House Chair of committees in the NCOP to let me know if there is a timeline yet. I'm waiting for a response, so I'll feed that back to you as soon as I get it. And that's all from me. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Member Badenhorst. All right, colleagues, I am going to allow the officials who need to leave to do so. Thank you very much for joining us. The rest of the committee will just wait behind for a couple of minutes just to finalize our resolutions before we close. So I'm going to give you 10-15 seconds just to log off the officials who have concluded their process. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Chair, do you need me for this?
Sorry, who was speaking there? Rikus?
Yeah, do you need me for this?
Yeah, it's up to you. You're welcome to sign off if you like to, but obviously you're a member, so you're entitled to stick around as well.
No, I'll stick around. Thanks. That's fine. I'm here.
Great. Okay, colleagues, I think we have quite a clear way forward when it comes to what we need to do, and that is to write an official letter putting into words all of the questions that we've raised and the inputs from our legal advisor, Ms. Kule, who I think was incredibly helpful. I sat in on the meeting of Member Badenhorst's committee recently, and I must say the quality of our officials and our response is like chalk and cheese. It really was fantastic to get such clear and concise information. And so thank you, Mr. Famila and Mr. Kutsia, for your inputs. Also really helped a lot. So I think we have a way forward in terms of that, and all of those points have been captured during the recording. So those will all be raised. I will then also, after this meeting, consult with Mr. Kutsia in coordination with Ms. Kule, and then refer the letter to the Speaker as suggested to then submit on our behalf. Is there anything that anybody else wants to raise or any other inputs anyone wants to make? Or you're welcome to amend that resolution if you wish. No? Going once? Going twice?
Sorry.
Yes, Member Masipa.
No, I just thought that the one that I mentioned with regards to requesting the legal advisor to reduce obviously inputs into writing, I think maybe just add to that. I think it will just help colleagues to engage with their caucuses, obviously, you know.
Correct. Mr. Kutsia, are you confident you've managed to capture the crux of those 4 questions? I mean, obviously you and I are welcome to maybe discuss this afterwards as well, just to finalize that. But would you say you're confident you've captured most of the questions that were raised?
That's correct, Chairperson. Yeah, I'll put the draft together and then give it to you, or I'll discuss it with our legal advisor, and then we submit it to you for final scrutiny.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Colleagues, if there aren't any other inputs, then that concludes the meeting, and we'll see some of you at the oversight that Honourable Masipa has organised this afternoon. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye, colleagues. See you later.
Hello. I must do the work of the committee assistant as well. Yeah, you know. Is it? Is it? Oh my, yeah. Okay, enjoy your outing. I must take a walk down to get a bus. Oh no, I'm going to walk earlier. No, but yeah.
our first and the last day for the week. Oh, are you coming? Are you coming in on Friday?
I'm coming on Friday. Guys must just watch out for me. Well, we enjoy. Yes.